Hello everyone and welcome back again. Today we will start with a new unit, that is unit number 7, number. In this unit we will talk about first what is a fraction, and then we will talk about the types of fractions. So first let's go to what is a fraction. A fraction is a piece or a part of a whole. For example, I'll take a circle, I'll draw the circle. This circle will be called a whole, alright? Now, if I divide the circle into 4 parts, each part of the circle, each part will be called a fraction of a whole. So fractions are used to represent a smaller pieces or parts of a thing. To write a fractions, we need to have 2 numbers. That is, one number on the top and one number on the bottom. And there has to be a line in between. Alright? So the number on the top, the number on the bottom, first let's go to the bottom one. What does it say? The bottom numbers tells us how many parts that something is divided into. That's something. Now here I've taken an example of a circle, right? Now this circle I divided into 4 parts. So that 4 parts would come down. Alright? And the number on the top tells us how many parts, how many of those parts we have. For example, from this 4 part, if I remove this one part of the circle, one part, okay? If I remove this one part, remaining how many parts I have? 1, 2, 3. 3 parts, so that 3 parts will come here on the top, okay? So know that bottom tells us how many parts that something is divided into, and the top tells us how many of those parts we have. Alright, now we will go to the types of fractions. We have so many different types of fractions. Let us learn one by one. Alright, so the first type of fractions is, we call it the proper fractions. Okay, so in a proper fraction, the bottom number will be always bigger and the top number will be smaller. Alright, so for example, I'll take this fraction as like this. That is 2 over 4 or 2 by 4 or 2 divided by 4. Alright, now here in this fraction the top number is smaller, right? And the bottom number is bigger, right? So this type of fractions is called a proper fractions. And in a fraction the top number is called the numerator. We call it numerator. And the bottom number we call it denominator. Alright, so the first type of fraction is done, that is proper fraction. Remember, the bottom number will be bigger than the top number. Alright, now we will go to improper fraction. Now in improper fraction is just opposite to this proper fraction. In improper fraction, the top number will be bigger than the bottom number. For example, I'll take 7 and down as 4. Done? Here the top number is bigger and the down number is smaller, so we call it this type of fraction, we call it as improper fraction. Done? Now we will go next to what is a whole fraction. Now in a whole fraction, the top and the bottom number will be always same, and the value will be always count as 1 only. Alright? So suppose example, if I take the top number is 5 and the bottom number is 5. So the top and the bottom number is same, right? So we will count this value as, we will take this value as just 1 only. So if you come across a fraction where the top and the bottom number is same, you have to take it as 1. Here in the circle, I have divided into 4 parts, right? Now 4 parts, I've divided this circle into 4 parts, right? Suppose 4 parts. Let's take the circle as an example. I have cut the circle, divided the circle into 4 parts. So that 4 parts will come down. Now if I bring all these 4 parts together, 4 parts together, that's make a complete one circle, that is whole. So that will be taken as 1. Alright, that is whole fraction. The top and the bottom number will be same, okay? And the value will be just 1. Alright, next we have the mixed fraction. Now mixed fraction is a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. Whole number, it can be anything, that is 1, 2 or 3, okay? A whole. We know that just now we have learned a whole, right? Where the top and the bottom numbers are same and we take that value as 1 only. So a mixed number is a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. Now what is a proper fraction? Here the top number will be smaller than the bottom number. Alright, that is the bottom number will be bigger and the top number will be smaller. So I'll take any number 2 by 3. So this will be your mixed number. So remember, mixed number, that is a combination of whole and the proper fraction. Next we will have a unit fraction. Now what is a unit fraction? Unit fractions means a fraction with 1 as its numerator. That is, if the top number is 1, that is, if the numerator, that is the top number is 1, that means we call it that fraction as the unit fraction. And the bottom number will be any whole number. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5, any number. But if the top number is 1, that means we call this fraction as unit fraction. Okay? And then now last we have the equivalent fractions. Equivalent fraction, in an equivalent fraction, the top number and the bottom number will be different, but the value will be same. For example, if I take, if 1 by 2 and 2 by 4. Now these two fractions have different top and bottom number, but the value is same. How? For example, half of 2 is 1, we know that, right? And half of 4 is 2. That means the value is half, just 1/2, right? See? So that we call it as the equivalent fraction. The fraction, that is the top number will be different, but the value, the answers will be the same. That is, half of 2 is 1 and half of 4 is 2. That is half. The value is half, right? So we call it this type of fraction as equivalent fraction. And to get an equivalent fraction, to find an equivalent fraction, what we can do is we multiply the top and the bottom number by the same. We multiply top and bottom number by the same number. For example, I've taken the fraction number as 1 and 2, right? I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom number by the same number. Let's take 2, right? So I've multiplied this 2, both top and bottom. So let's multiply. 1 times 2 is, we know that it's 2, and 2 times 2 is 4, right? See this 1 by 2, answers is 2 by 4. When I multiply both top and bottom number, I got the answers as 2 by 4, right? That means this 1 by 2 and 2 by 4 have the same value. Or we can do in other way is, instead of multiplying, we can find the equivalent fraction of this 2 by 4 by dividing both top and bottom number by the same number. Here I'm going to use 2 again. Done? So divide it. What is the answers that you get? 2 divided by 2, we know that it's 1. And then 4 divided by 2, get 2, right? That means 1 by 2, that is the value of 2 by 4, we got the answers as 1 by 2. So we can say 1 by 2 and 2 by 4 are equivalent fractions. Remember, to get an equivalent fractions, you can multiply both the top and the bottom number by the same number, or divide the top and bottom number by the same number to get an equivalent fractions. So now next we will go to the exercises. We will try to solve some of the exercises from your textbook. So let's start with the exercises. So the first one is taken from your exercise only. The first one, it says complete this equivalent fractions. So we have learned how to find the equivalent fractions, right? The easiest way to get the equivalent fractions is to multiply both top and bottom number by the same number, or divide both the top and the bottom number by the same number, right? So here we're going to find the missing numbers here, missing frequency of equivalent, okay? So here I have the first questions, that is 1 by 2 equal dash by 6. Now here I have to find out this missing one. These two fractions are equivalent. So one number is missing, that is the top number is missing. So we have to find out for that missing equivalent fractions number, okay? So how to find out? We have learned that we multiply both the top and the bottom number by the same number, right? So let's find out. Here the bottom number is given and the top number is missing here. So how do we find the equivalent fractions? So when we look at this bottom number here, the number is 2. So if we read the table of 2, we know that 2 times 3 is 6, right? So that means we're multiplying by 3. That is 2, 3 is 6. So To find the equivalent fraction, we multiply both top and bottom number by the same number. So we'll multiply with this 3. That is 3 multiplied 2 multiplied 3, we got 6, right? So same here, we're going to do for the top number also. That is 1 times 3 is 3. So your answer is 3. That is 1 by 2 and 3 by 6 are equivalent fractions. Now let's find out there's another one. Here the top number is missing again, and then the bottom number is given. So how to find out this top number? We'll use this bottom number for this fraction which is given. That is, we know that if we read the table of 6, we find that 6 times 2 is 12, right? That is, if you multiply 6 by 2, you get 12 answers. So what we have to do is to find out what is missing number, that is the top number, we will multiply it by 2. That is multiplying top and bottom by the same number, right? So 5, 2 is 10. So that's how we find the missing frequency, equivalent fractions number, okay? Now let's go to this second one. It says find 4 pairs of equivalent fractions. Now here, these are the equivalent fractions number. So the fractions are given. We have to find out 4 pairs of equivalent fractions, okay? So let's find out. So here, when we look at these fractions, I'm going to take this first one, that is 1 by 2, and then 5 by 10. Let's see whether these 2 fractions are equivalent or not. Now here the first fraction is 1 by 2, and then the second fraction I've taken as 5 by 10. So let's see whether they are equivalent or not, okay? So 1 by 2, I know that half of 2 is 1 and half of 10 is 5. So that means the same. That means if I multiply this 1 by 5 and then bottom also 5, top 5 and then bottom also 5, I get these answers, right? That is 1 multiplied 5, that is 1 times 5 is 5 and 2 times 5 is 10. The answer is the same, right? So they have different top and bottom numbers. They have different top and bottom number, but their values are same, right? So these 2 are equivalent fraction. That is 1 by 2 and 5 by 10 are equivalent fractions. So we got 1 pair of equivalent fraction. We need to find out 4 pairs of equivalent fractions, right? So we got 1 pairs of equivalent fraction. Let's find out the other one. Now here I'm going to take this one, that is 8 by 10 and 4 by 5. Let's find out whether they are same or not. That is 4 by 5 and then 8 by 10. Whether they are equivalent or not. Equivalent means the top and the bottom number will be different, but their value, the answers will be same, okay? So here I have, what we do is, let's multiply top and bottom number by same. When we read the table of 4, we find that 4 times 2 is 8, right? So if I multiply down also, if I multiply 2 with this bottom number, let's see whether we get 10 or not. So 5, 2 is 10. That means 4, 2 is 8, 5, 2 is 10. So if I multiply both top and bottom number by 2, I get 8 by 10 exactly, right? So that means I can say that this 2, 4 by 5 and 8 by 10 are equivalent fractions. So these 2 are second pair of equivalent fractions. So let's find out the third one. Let's take this one, 7 by 10 and this one, 35 by 50. So let's find out 7 by 10 and 35 by 50. Let's check whether these 2 are equivalent or not. So we know that 7, 5 is 35, right? 7, 5 is 35. So to find equivalent, we have to multiply both top and bottom number by same number, right? So here 7 times 5 is 35. So I'll use here 5 again down to multiply. Let's see whether the answer is correct or not. 7, 5, 35. So if I multiply 5 with this bottom number, 10, 5, we got 50. That means the answer, the value is same, right? That is 7, 5, 35, and then 10, 5, 50. The answer is the same, right? So that means this will be your third pair of equivalent fractions number. Let's find out the last one. I'll take this one, 3 by 10 and 30 by 100. 3 by 10 and 30 by 100. Now let's check. We know that 3 times 10 is 30. So if I multiply the bottom number also by 10, do we get 100? That is 10 times 10 is 100. That means the answer is the same. That is 3 times 10 is 30. 10 times 10 is 100. So it's same. So that means This will be your fourth series of equivalent fractions number. So here the question says which fraction is left out. So the left out fractions is 4 by 10. So the answers will be 4 by 10 fractions is left out. Okay? Now let's go to this next number. It says complete the number statement using the sign. This equal, greater and less sign. Okay? So how do we use this? How do we compare these fractions? Here the two fractions sum is given. We have to compare using the sign. Which one is greater and which one is smaller or which one is equal. Okay, whether the fractions are equal or not. So to compare the fraction, which one is greater or smaller or equal, what we have to do is we have to cross multiply. That is, this 3, this up number 3 will multiply with this down number. Okay, that is 3 will multiply with this down number. That is 3 multiplied 20 is how much? And then this down number will multiply with this up number over here. So cross multiply. This up will multiply with this down, and this down will multiply with this other fraction number, that is the top one, right? So 4 into 70. So let's find out. 3 times 20 is how much? We know that is 60. And then 4 times 17 is how much? 4, we know that's 4, 7 is 28, 2, 4, 1, 4, 6, right? So that means 68, that is 4 times 17 is 68 and 3 times 20 is 60. So which number is greater? We know that 68 is greater than 60, so that means 4 times 17 is 68 we got, right? So this second number is greater, so we can say that this second fraction is greater. If the first answer is greater, that means the first fraction will be greater. Since the second number is greater, we will take it as the second fraction is bigger. Okay? That is 17 by 20 will be greater than, is greater than this 3 by 4. That is 3 by 5, 3 by 4, 3 by 4 is less than 17 by 20. Okay? Alright? So, know that to compare the fraction number, do the cross multiplications. Okay? Up will multiply with this down number, the other fraction number, and then bottom number will multiply with this other fraction number which is on the top. Okay? And if the first number is greater, that means if the first answer is greater, after you multiply, you will get an answer, right? So if the first number is greater, answers is greater, then the first fraction will be greater. And if the second one is greater, here the second number is greater, so we have used this sign that is facing towards this second fraction number. Alright, so that's how we compare using this sign. Now let's go to this next one. It says complete this number calculations. Here we have to complete this one. What number or what fractions will come in this empty box here? Here it says 1 by 4 plus something equal 1. So together, both this fraction together should be equal to 1. So 1 means it's a whole, right? So we have here 1 by 4. We know that the bottom numbers tells us how many parts that something is divided into, right? So the bottom part is 4. That means there are 4 parts. So out of 4 parts, they have taken just 1 part. That means remaining, how many parts is there out of 4? 1 part is taken. That means 3 parts is left. So we write as 3 by 4. Total is 4 parts, right? Out of 4, 1 part is given here. So remaining 3 parts is left. So we write the 3 part here, 3 by 4. The bottom number will remain the same. So 1 plus 3 makes 4, right? So 4 parts is divided into 4. That means the up number is 4 now, and the bottom number is 4. That means top and bottom number is same, then the value will be 1, right? Now here we have 3 by 4 plus dash equal 1. So we have to make it as 1. So to make it as 1, we know that the bottom number is 4. That means how many parts is divided into? It's divided into 4 parts, and out of 4 parts, 3 parts is given. That means only 1 part is left. So we write here as 1. So 3 plus 1 together makes 4. So up and bottom number is same now. So the answer is 1. Alright, so this is how we find the calculations. Now we will do some more questions from your exercise again. Right, let's do some more questions from your exercise. This is taken from page number 86, question number 2. Okay, so here the fraction number is given and then we have to find out the decimal number, and then some decimal numbers are given and fractions number are missing. So what we have to do is we're going to change from fraction to decimal and from decimal to fraction. Alright, so let's try out this one. It says the fraction number is given as 1/10, that is 1/10, right? So how to find the decimal? So this is 1/10, that is 10, 1 part of 10, right? So here, how do we do is, the number is 1, so we'll just write 1, just to make it easy. How to find out the decimal number is, here, under this 10 we have single 0, so we will count just 1, okay, 1 number and put the point, alright? And then before this point, there's nothing is given, right? So we'll just put 0, alright? If it is 100, suppose if it is 100, we will count 2 number and then we will put a point, okay? We will count 2 number from the right and then put a point. Since there is single 0 in 10, so we will count just 1 number and put a point, okay? It will go from the right, okay? It will move from the right, okay? Now here, and then here we have 0.75. 0.75. In the place value, we count the place value as 1, 10, 100, and 1,000, right? So this decimal part, suppose example, if it is like this, so 1 and 3, okay? If the number is like this in the decimal number, if the decimal number is given as 21.13, okay? Suppose if the number is given in decimal term as like this, okay? How do we read the place value? Before this place value, before this point, we read as 1s, 10s, right? After the point, we don't read as 1s, 10s. We read as 10th, 100th, okay? So that means this one is in the 10th place. So right after the point comes 10. So that's why point 1, okay? Now here we have, after the point we have 2 numbers, right? 2 number. So that is your 100, 10, 100. So we write as 75/100, okay? So after the point, there are 2 numbers, so put 2 0. The easiest way to find the answers is like this, okay? So 2 0, so we will count 2 numbers from the back and then put a point, right? In that way also you can do, okay? Alright? So this is 1/10, so 0.1. So your 10 comes right after the point, so 1/10. Okay, that is 0.1, okay? And then this one is right after the decimal, we count as 10, 100, so it's in the 100 place, so we write as 75/100, okay? Now let's go to this one. Now this one is not of a, there is no 110, right? So what do we do in this case is this, 1/4 means 1 divided by 4. So we have to divide to get this decimal number. That is 1 divided by 4. So we're going to divide this 1/4. Now, when we look at this number 1, 1 is 2 less, right? When we compare with this divisor number, 1 is 2 less. We cannot do divide. So what do we have to do is, we will put a point and then put a 0. Alright? So, 1 and 0, just take it as your 10. So we know that when we read the table of 4, we find that 4, 2 is 8, right? We don't find 10, so we will take less than 10, that is 8, that is 4, 2 is 8, right? So minus it, 10 minus 8 is 2. So here in this case, we don't need remainder. So what we have to do is, since there is nothing is there, so what we have to do is, we will put one more 0, and then bring that 0 over here. So that's make 20. So we write as 4, 5, 20. So our remainder is 0 now. So our answer is, since we have used the point over here, so we will put a point, okay? And then before this nothing is there, so we will put this 0, okay? So your answer is 1 divided by 4 is 0.25, okay? Alright? Know that 1 is less, that's why we have used this point, and then we have put this 0 to make it as 10. So we have taken as 4, 2 is 8, so minus it, we got remainder as 2. So in this case, we don't need remainder, so To make it 2 number, what I have done here is I added one more 0, and then this 0 we have bring down here, so that's make 20. Alright, so we know that 4, 5 is 20, so we got our remainder is 0, right? And since we have used here points, so we're going to put this point in the answers also, that is 0.25. Okay, so that's how we convert from fraction to decimal and from decimal to fraction. Okay, now let's go to this next one. Write each of this diagram. Here, this is your diagram. These parts are all shaded, okay? Alright? These parts are all shaded. Take it that these parts are all shaded. What we have to do is, using this diagram, we have to write it as mixed number. So how do we write as mixed number? Here, this shape is in the shape of a rectangle. All these are in the shape of a rectangle, and each of this shape is divided into 3 parts. Alright? So here, all these 3 parts are shaded, right? So all together, out of 3 parts are shaded, so that will be counted as whole, right? And then here also 3 parts, this shape, that is rectangle shape, is divided into 3 parts, and all these 3 parts are shaded, so that will be counted as 1. Now here, out of these 3 parts, just 1 part is shaded out of 3, right? So we write as 1 by 3. So out of 3, just 1 part is shaded. Here, out of 3, all the 3 parts are shaded. That means the top and the bottom numbers are same. Out of 3 parts, all the 3 parts are shaded, right? That is 3 over 3. So that will be counted as 1. So we are taken as 1. So how do we write as mixed number? Mixed number means whole number first, right? Whole number in the proper fraction. So we have how many whole? 1, 1. So that's made together 2. And then we have this proper fraction 1 by 3. Alright? So we have 1 whole here and 1 whole here. That's made 2. And then this 1 by 3. Alright? Now let's do this one here. Now here, out of these 3 parts, all the 3 parts are shaded. So that will be counted as 1. And here, out of 3 parts, only 2 parts are shaded, right? So we write the mixed fraction as 1. We have only 1 whole, so we write as 1. And here we have, out of 3 parts, 2 parts are shaded, so we write as 2 by 3. So that's how we use the diagram to write the mixed number. Okay? Now let's go to this number line. Now using this number line, we are going to find out which mixed numbers will fall in this ABC. Okay? Alright? So which numbers goes inside this box which is marked, okay? A, B, and C. Alright? A, B, and C. So which number will fall here? So what mixed numbers will fall here? How to find out? Here for this A, so they have point here. Let's make it as here since the space is less. Alright? So what mixed numbers will come here in this scale? Now here, each scale, in between each scale, there are 4 marks. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 will be your 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 is your 2, right? So for this one, this point, that is A marks, comes right after 1. So that will be count as your whole 1. And then each, in between every number, there are 4 parts are there. 4 marks are there. So we will count it as this A mark as 1, since it has crossed 1, right? So 1, and for the proper fraction, since it's stopped, this marks A points at 1, the first mark, right? So 1 by 4. Why 4? Because in every scale, in every number, in between every number, there are 4 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth count will be the next number, right? So we have 4 parts divided into 4 parts. So we have written as 4 down and by 1 on the top, because this point marks the first mark, right? So this one is for the first mark. So we write as 1 and then divided by, that is by 4 total parts, okay? And this one is from here. Now here for this B, for this mark, how do we find the mixed number? Now this B marks comes after this 2, so that will be for your whole number 2, and then it falls at 1, 2, 3, the third mark, so 3 by, and your bottom number will be, since in between every mark, in between every number there are 4 marks, so 4. Okay, and then for this C, how do we find? your C comes, this one comes up to 3. So that will be your whole number 3. And then each number, there are 4 parts, so we write at 4. And then this point stops at second mark, 1, 2, right? So we write as 2. So 3, 2 over 4. So that's how we find the mixed number using this on this number line scale. Okay, so let's do some more questions from again. All right, now let's try this some more questions again from these chapters. So we have 3 questions. This will be the last 3 questions. Okay, so the first questions, these questions are taken from page number 88. Okay, so this first question, that is question number 2, it says copy this diagram, coloring the requested fraction. So the fraction number is given. So looking at this fraction, we have to shape, okay, this diagram. All right. Now we know that in a fraction, the bottom number tells us how many parts that something is divided into. Now when we look here, this bottom number is 3, and when we look at this part, it's divided into more than 3 parts, right? So how do we shape this? So how do we do is, it says 1 by 3, so we're going to shape 1 by 3, right? So that means we have to make it into 3 parts. So out of that 3 parts, we can have to shape just 1 part, right, of 3, right? So what we have to do is, let's count how many parts are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So altogether we have 9, right? So we'll divide 9 by 3. We have 3, right? So if we divide the total part here, which is given here, the figure is 9. So you divide it by this 3. So you get 3 is 9, right? We know that 3 into 3 is 9, so we're going to take 1 part, 3 parts will be counted as just 1 part, and then again 1, 2, and this part will be counted as 1 part again, and then we have 2 and then 1 more, that will be counted as 1 part. So we have altogether how many parts now? That means 3 parts will be counted as 1, 1, okay? That is 1, we have 1, this 2, and then this 1 part will be count as 1, and this 2 part and this 1 will be counted as 1. So let's make altogether 3 now. It says out of 3, only 1 part is shaded. So we have divided into 3, 3. We have divided, right? All this total part, that is 9, into 3. That means 3 blocks we have taken as 1, 1. So what do we do is, it says 3, 1, right? 1 by 3. So what we have to do is, out of 3 parts, we have to shade just 1 part. So that 1 part we have taken as 3 boxes, we have taken as just 1 part. So we will shade this first 3 box. Okay, that will be your 1 part of this tree. Okay, now we have here 1 by 5. So the bottom number is 5, so it should be a 5, but here we have more than 5 parts, right? So let's count, same again, like how we did here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 parts altogether. If you divide it by this 5, you get 2, right? That is 5, 2 is 10. So that means we're going to count 2 parts as 1 only, okay? So 1, again another 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So altogether 5, right? So here it says 1 by 5. So for 1, we have taken 2 boxes as 1. So we are going to shape 2 boxes. And this 2 boxes will be counted as 1. Okay? So that's how we use this diagram to color the fraction which is given. Okay? Now let's work out this one. It says 1 by 3 of 18. What is the answers? So how to find out the calculations? How to find out the answers? It says 1 by 3 of means multiply. Okay? 18. Right? Now here your 3 is in the down, okay, bottom number. 3 is your bottom number and 18 is your up number. Okay? Now when we look at this, 3 and 18, we find that 6 is 18. That is 3 times 6 is 18. So I'm going to use the table of 3 and then cut this number, that is 18. That is, I'm going to make it as 6. That is 3 times 6 is 18. So I've cut this. Alright? So that is 18. If you divide it by 3, you will get your answers as 6. Okay? So instead of dividing, I've cut this number and then I've made it as 6. Okay? So what left is 6 only, right? That is 1 times 6 is 6 only. The bottom number, nothing is there, just 1 is there. So 6 by 1 is just 6 only. Okay? Now here we have another one, that is 1 by 4. Of means into 16. Now 16 is up and then 4 is down. what you can do is you divide the 16 by 4. Okay, if you divide it by 16, if you divide 16 by 4, you will get 4 4 is 16, right? So we can take it as 4 1 4 and then 4 4 is 16. Okay, so we can cut it and then write as 4. Now, because we know that 16, if we divide it by 4, we get answers as 4, right? So you cut it, since you have taken this 4 to divide this number, right? So you cut it and then write down the answers on the top. So what you get is 1 times 4 is 4. Okay? Now let's go to these last questions. It says, what are the missing fractions? Here we have to find out the missing fractions here. It says 24 divided by 3 is equivalent to dash of 24. So 24 divided by 3, we can take it as 24 divided by 3, we can take it as into a fraction. We can change it into a fraction like this. 24 divided by 3, right? And here is given dash of 24. 24 divided by 3, and then here the questions is given dash of 24. Now here, your 24 is already mentioned here, right? And then your 3 is down, so we can write it as 3 down. And what about the top number? Since nothing is there, we'll just make it as 1. Okay? So if we write it as 1, 1 by 3, let's see whether we get 24 divided by 3 or not. So off, we know that is multiplied, so 1 into 24 is 24 only, and then 3 is down, so we bring this 3 down here. So we got the same, that is 24 by 3, so that means these two are equivalent. So the answers over here will be 1 by 3, okay, or 1 over 3. Now what about here? It says 16 divided by 8. So let's write 16 divided by 8. We'll write it into fraction like this, 16 divided by 8, and then here is given, 16 answers is given and off is given. So 16 is already written here. What we need to write here is, we have left with 8, and then the top number is not there, so we write it as 1. Okay? That is, 8 is down, right? And then for this top number, nothing is there. 16 is already here, and nothing is there, so we just take 1. Okay? So when we multiply, off means multiply, so 1 into 16 is 16, and down is 8 with nothing, that is 8. Alright? So here your answers will be, that is 16 divided by 8 is equivalent to 1 by 8 of 16. So that's all for today. See you in the next video again.